Yeah, it's okay. All right. Welcome. Welcome to the HEF podcast. We're going to do things a little bit different today. I'm going to let the music roll. No, I'm not. I'm going to kill the music. Music, go. All right. But we have a little bit of a different intro today. Welcome to the HEF podcast. That is the podcast of the Home Education Foundation. My name is Jason Crawford. And the Home Education Foundation is an organization that was started by the beloved Brenda Dickinson and her husband, Craig Dickinson, I believe back in 1991. And it has served the home education community in Florida for the last 40 years. Most people didn't know that. They knew the name Brenda Dickinson because she's an amazing woman. And there's many, many epic stories of her fighting for homeschool and home education parents' rights in Florida. And she's among those early pioneers who really just saw the need for the definitions in law, spelling it out, naming it, claiming it, and defending it. And that's why we have home education rights today, in a very different way than other states do. And it's here's a little video testimony to her as we do our intro. Wouldn't have been possible without Brenda Dickinson, to be honest with you. She's amazing. And then it's also not possible without the help of our sponsors. First off, I want to say there are so many home education families that support the work that we do. And we're very, very thankful for you. We are also very thankful for all of the top sponsors that we have. These are corporations or companies, organizations, let me put it that way, that believe in the mission of the Home Education Foundation, and they just want to support. Some of them are in alignment with our mission, like FPEA and TVHC Group, and others just believe strongly in the work that we do, like Arete and Fisher Precious Metals, and we're so thankful to have them as our top sponsors. And we're also thankful to have our guest today. Welcome, Vicki Mullins. How are you? Oh, let me
This
get
is a
your
treat
mic
to
on.
be
I'm
on
sorry.
with you.
Yeah.
Oh, you got me?
Yes.
I said I'm fantastic. It's a treat to be on with you all. This was something I've watched a lot, but it's great to be on with you.
I think the treat is ours. I always love connecting with the home education families, and you guys have been instrumental in ways that a lot of people don't also know. This session, you helped connect us with your senator, and it was extremely useful to have those conversations as we were working on the kind of educational issues with the
Mhm.
scholarship, as well as kind of seeking extra support for the sports issue. And, Reagan, your daughter, Reagan, very impacted by that issue. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting, though, when you discuss Brenda and just the legend and, foremother of our movement. I
mm,
worked in the legislature, and Dan Webster, who she worked so closely with, was the first Republican speaker since Reconstruction. And the member who I worked for, was in the minority and then ultimately the majority with Dan. So a lot of these paths have crossed,
mm-hmm,
and I was, I tease that I was a reluctant homeschooler. It was
mm,
simply out of sheer obedience to calling that I went into it doubting my being equipped. But I know that for me and my faith, I know that God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. And
ooh,
so I just had to be obedient and take it one step at a time. And that's what we've done for 12 amazing, long, hard, easy, wonderful years. So,
yeah,
here we
yeah.
are.
I love that. I want to hear more. You said that your jaunt into it was a bit more reluctant. I spent
Mm-hmm.
a lot of time this weekend and last weekend with a lot of new home education families. Last weekend we were in Tampa at the TBHC, the Tampa Bay Homeschool Conference. It was great. Your daughter was one of the workshop presenters. From what I hear, she did a fantastic job, but I was having to MC the event, so I was off in other places. But it's always good to connect with her. I asked people at the event to raise their hand if they were new to homeschooling, and I kid you not, it was about half the hands that went up. Yeah. And it's wild to think how much it's growing, how fast it's growing, and a lot of people are coming in. When I went to the Hispanic Homeschool Conference this past weekend, a lot of people are jumping in. Their confidence is up, and they're brave. And I think a lot of it has to do with maybe the scholarship is getting people, it's out there, the word is spreading, and it's getting people to think about maybe doing it. But there's this mindset shift where people are used to abdicating their children to a system of some kind, like public education or private schools or, other little options. And it's a challenge sometimes, I think, to make that shift. So I'm really interested. That's a very long lead in, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm very interested in hearing, more about your kind of move into it, and especially maybe what you might have to say to some of these new families.
Of course. So it's interesting to me as I sit and look, we were in a small group the other day, and one of the questions was, define some moments in your life where you didn't feel equipped, but you obeyed and you went into something and how it changed your life. Okay. So homeschooling was one of the most prominent things that I could come up with. But it made me look at why I was reluctant, what my fears were, what I felt my inadequacies or my perceived inadequacies were. And I think it's because I had maybe seen a little bit more of the early onset of homeschooling and perhaps some of the evolution of the homeschooling movement. And I think we can all agree that initially it was probably more of a religious, protective pursuit of people's. We didn't want to give our children over to the public school system, the secular world, et cetera. And I remember even when I was contemplating it and praying through it, a wise older mom said, if you don't want Romans, don't give your kids to Caesar.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a portion of it for sure. But a lot of it was also our older daughter had entered VPK, so voluntary pre-K, at our church's school. And, everyone thinks that's a protected environment and that's wonderful and that's going to be the best thing. And to some degree it is, but we can all also understand that even in private and Christian schools, we're going to get the same cross section of society. Maybe the ratios are just a little different.
Yeah.
But her pre-K teacher came to me at that time and said, I've worked here for 15 years. You are going to spend so much time here trying to advocate for your daughter because she's going to need extra. She's bright. She's already well advanced past what we have to offer her at the VPK level. She said, I don't think the school will keep up with her. And so for my husband and myself, we didn't ever envision public school as being an option because of all the same things that most people are concerned with. And then we also realized now we have this added layer of needing to, but also really desiring a customized, tailored, really explicit approach for our daughter. And we knew the younger one, who's only 2 years, she'll be a junior. She's only 2 years younger. We knew she was showing the same signs. And so when I added all those things together, then I looked and went, oh, but me? It's sort of like when I went on my first missions trip, my pastor solicited my participation. I said, no, I give to missions. I don't go on missions. I pray for missions. I don't go on missions.
Yeah.
And he said, no, you're going. And so I just went to my husband, and he hadn't really felt the same call yet. And he works in higher education, public higher education. So imagine, here's me saying, thank you so much for providing for our family via this public education arena. Now we're going to take our kids out of it and make sure that they're educated. So his one, I say request, he says demand, was don't mess them up. It was more colorful than that. And please make sure that if it's what God has for them, they are able to apply and get into college and then be successful in college. If that's what God has for them, we don't want that door to be closed because homeschooling, quote unquote, ruined them. And so, of course, I said, sure.
That's a worry a lot of people have. Yeah.
It is. And here we are, fast forward, and a part of it is probably being in the state of Florida, that we do have such a supportive state at this time. Yep. But here we are with our first graduate who's never stepped foot into a public school other than to say no to the FCAT and respectfully decline participation. She's never stepped foot into public school, and here she is headed off to a public university and an honors college within that university.
Amazing. And so here she is with us.
Yeah, and here she is, our Reagan. Yeah.
Hey, Reagan.
Hi. Yeah. Sorry, I was driving and got a little bit lost for a second, so I had to join late.
Yeah,
it's okay. It's perfectly fine. We're glad you're with us. Not a worry at all.
Yeah. So that's how we got into it. My reluctance was simply probably resources. But, you know, I was assured by so many people that homeschooling is not one size fits all. There are more resources than you. And this was 12 years ago. Now I would say this has grown exponentially, but there are more resources than you can fathom. You just have to follow behind someone and know where to find them and be somewhat tenacious and resilient, right? If homeschooling is going to be a major effort in your life, and it is, you're going to have to put the major effort in pursuing those resources. So that's kind of how we got into it.
You've said so much. You've said so much. And I think Crystal, my wife, I don't want to speak for you. You can speak up. But I think she probably felt some of your same reluctance at first when I was like, no, we're homeschooling. And she was like, what is that?
Yeah, I had a great experience at a public elementary school, but I since have realized that mine was probably like a diamond in the rough kind of situation where it was unusual. We had a Christian principal of the school, and it was just a really great environment. And then I was private schooled for middle school, and then I went to a magnet school for high school and had a good experience there. So I was kind of like, when he said he wanted to homeschool, the first thing I thought about was all the stuff that our kids would, you know, miss out on with the air quotes, because I had done chorus and sports and all these things. And I didn't know the statutes for Florida, even though I grew up here. And I didn't know that home education students have access to those things. And I also didn't know that there was such a rich community of homeschoolers that do those things, you know, as a group of homeschoolers. So when our oldest was a baby, I got invited by some homeschooling families from our church to teach some classes at a little co-op they were doing on Fridays. And so my first toe dip into the homeschooling world was as a teacher. But after doing that for a few months, I was no longer reticent about the homeschooling, because I saw how many resources were available, what a rich community you can have. It doesn't have to be isolating like I'd pictured it in my mind. Prior to meeting Jason and his family, the majority of the homeschoolers I knew were your classic socially awkward, very isolated families.
Thank you, babe. I appreciate you saying that.
Well, his family wasn't. They were the first outgoing, socially normal homeschooling family I had met, which you know, I had worked at Mosey in college, and we had homeschool day there. And it was, most of the people I encountered gave me an impression that homeschooling was a little bit isolating and not so integrating in terms of being able to function in society. So that was my conception. And honestly, I think that still persists today, a lot of people's concept of homeschooling. But it really is not that now. From the time that I was in elementary school, and we had that one odd homeschooling kid that showed up for PE, and we were all like, homeschoolers can take PE at public school? That's weird. From then to now, it's really become, like you said, there are just so many resources, and you do sometimes have to dig for them, ask around, look for them. But we're so many decades in now to home education that there are plenty of families a little bit ahead of you on the path that you can ask, and they can help you and provide that guidance.
Right. And I think there's such a spectrum, right? There are, you know, everything from unschoolers to uber rigorous homeschoolers. We probably fall on the latter side of the spectrum, particularly in light of my husband's demand. But I think the awkwardness, I think that's going to come anywhere. The difference is, it depends on what you're seeking, right?
Yes.
If you want to shelter and protect, and you don't mind that awkwardness, that's fine. I think we like to fall into a happy medium. The difference being, all the exposure children get in traditional school and, brick and mortar school, once it's there, it's set, right? If we're in a co-op or an activity group or some social structure that things aren't working out or they could work better, we can pivot. And once you're locked into a schedule and groups and things at school, and you're just clumped by kids of the same age or same performance level, there's no pivot. You're locked in. And to us, the motivation behind continuing every year has been the control of it. We are in control. And ultimately, when we are gifted our children, we'll answer for who they are and what they become and what we poured into them. So I don't want to give 8-9 hours a day, 5 days a week to someone else and then I'm going to answer for the outcome.
Yeah, that was actually a big part of the convincing part for me too. As soon as we had our oldest, and I was still fearful of homeschooling because of my concept of it, but as soon as we had our oldest, I felt this conviction that I was responsible for her. And the thought of dropping her off somewhere where I was not present for so many hours a day, where I had no control over what was happening,
right,
just felt wrong to me, on a deep level. And
the hard things still happen.
Responsibility.
Yeah. Right. The hard things still happen.
Yes.
The things that you wouldn't choose still happen. The difference is you're either in a front row seat or you're in the wings there to assist and parent through it. That's the ultimate thing. It's not controlling it. It's parenting through it from a much more direct standpoint.
Yes. And
our girls have been bullied, all the things.
Yes. I see that happen to homeschoolers as well. I directed a class program for several years in the Tampa area. And yeah, it happens. I mean, it's social dynamics. And in fairness, I managed to be an awkward kid without being a homeschooler. That was just all on my own,
Right.
So it's not like homeschooling or public school, either one has the claim on all of the social issues. But being able to be there and actually parent your child through those dynamics is such a big difference from leaving that responsibility to whatever adult happens to be in charge when you're not there.
Right. And then academically, to me, it's been a challenge at times, but a privilege too. We see difficulties the moment they arise. If there's a reading delay or a reading advancement, we're there. We adapt and tailor. And again, I get it. There may be people out there that are skeptical and say, well, what about the ones who don't pivot, who don't tailor, who don't customize, who don't use their resources? But that's that way in public school.
Yeah.
Right. There you go. But that's that way in traditional school. We drop our kids off. We think it's their job to educate them. So I tap out. So yes, do we have home educators who do that? Absolutely. But the point is we have the choice to decide which parent we're going to be.
I want to highlight.
And so go ahead.
I remember a key moment when I think it was still in elementary school. In our program we used to do, it's called CC, and in the afternoon we would all sit and we would listen to a tutor talk about grammar and writing and math and these sort of things. And I remember for several weeks my mom would be sitting next to me and watching me listen and learn, and I was sitting and doodling quite often, and my mom would always be like, stop, pay attention. And she thought for a while I wasn't paying attention, until eventually she realized, and she was asking me questions about what I was learning and realizing I was retaining everything I was hearing, just I wasn't looking at it. I'm an auditory learner at my core, and because my mom was sitting next to me watching that happen, she was able to notice and then pivot. And so, you know what, I then was able to, I bring a notebook in and I doodle, and then I learned taking notes and being able to hear. That's what works best for me, rather than just seeing things as they're taught to me. And so that's a great blessing that being a home educator does, is allows you to look at your kids and say, like, how do they learn and how can I pivot, or how can I find things that work for them?
I just pause on that for a second. That's so brilliant and beautiful at the same time, that you were talking about the delay and the gap between seeing what your child needs and then being able to close the gap on it, and where in a different environment where you're not directly involved, there's maybe a week goes by, maybe a couple of days, maybe that's fast. I mean, a couple of days is fast, but
Very.
typically it's a week or a month or 3 before you realize something's wrong at school. In the public education system, as a parent, unless it's really hit the fan and there's something they'll let you know. Aside from that, you just assume everything is good, but to catch the personality differences emerging for your kid, what their strengths are, knowing that she's an auditory learner, and then going, I can tailor right now to that. Like, I can pivot on the spot in the moment. We can throw everything else out that was veined for this and like switch gears and start teaching this way. Like, what an immense amount of raw focus. And that is stuff the business world loves. That they thrive on that, but our educational worlds, our institutions, suffer immensely, all the way from the university level down to the pre-K level, because they're not as, what's the word, fluid. They can't be as fluid as a parent with their own kid. Just the raw power of that is immense. And I want to take the conversation to a question I have for both of you, Reagan, and because you'll have that. You're that next generation we're relying on. So I really want to see where you're at. But there's a lot of people who are interested in homeschooling just because of the scholarship. And they're nervous that it's going to, maybe they're hearing from everybody it's going to ruin everything. But, maybe they're coming from this mindset where they've never even considered that it was possible for them. But if there's funding in it, maybe we could. Like, what are some of the, do you think, let me just ask this one first. Do you think anyone needs a scholarship to homeschool? Let's start with that.
Let's see. Need. No. I can tell you. So when my husband and I married, our salaries were reversed. I was, the higher breadwinner, and we just in that realm had to kind of trust, right? And say, and then of course I'm called to homeschool, quit my career, all the things. And so that was an eye-opening kind of trust moment. Need, no. So even if you just look at, if you've got littles don't need to be educated 8 hours a day with books and curricula and packages and whatever. You could go on to easy peasy online homeschool, totally free. And if they're reading, writing, you're reading great books from the library to them. We did that. We had read aloud. There were times where in our former home in Orlando, the library system donated or delivered to your home. We would pull into the house and there were little blue bags that, squeals would happen in the car because our next set of books had arrived. So there are so many resources that are not costly, but there are also things you can do to offset if mom or dad chooses they're going to be that stay-at-home homeschool parent. There are so many things you can do to offset, take a child into daycare, do whatever you need to do, but need a scholarship? Absolutely not. This is in 12 years, this is the first year we've taken it. If it goes away tomorrow, okay, we've used it to pay for those extras, but it has not impacted our curriculum.
I want to pause. That is brilliantly said. Like, I couldn't say it better myself. That's literally my exact stance. It's great to have while we have it. The very moment it becomes onerous, I'm out. And I'm going to fight. Listen, I'm going to fight against all of the onerous restrictions. Like, we're in there dogging it out and having arguments, and people are like, but what about they're doing this or that? I'm like, hang on, slow that down. Let's make this conversation make sense. And there's a lot of tiny little things that we have to watch for as we're negotiating or we're talking about these things. And I hope that we can fight well enough, especially when I say we, I mean the home education community in Florida. I hope that we can send a resounding message loud enough and unified enough that, unlike other states where they blended the program, the scholarships right into the home education statutes, and it became a hot mess that we can keep them separate and keep them free and keep the parents at the top. There's something that I was talking at the homeschool conference for the Hispanic homeschool conference, and there was something in the statute that's at the top of the scholarship statute for PEP that isn't in the home education statute, because I was arguing with someone there, they're like, oh, it's far more restrictive. You're giving away all of your rights. I'm like, hang on a second. Let me read this to you. That at the beginning of the 1002.395, it says, ensuring that all parents, and this is the beginning of the statute, so it sets up the scope and purpose, and it states it in plain language. It's very important. It says, ensuring that all parents, regardless of means, may exercise and enjoy their basic right to educate their children as they see fit. That's spelled out at the very top of PEP, and I don't think a lot of people realize that when it comes down to it and we start pushing, the words like these are you established a basic right that the parents can educate their children as they see fit. It's going to make it challenging for a lot of the programs where people want to go, I want to use PEP and go to virtual school or this or that and dump their kids off to another entity, because it's here, the scope and aim of it is to acknowledge the parent's basic right. But that acknowledgement is critical. It's critical. And I haven't read, words matter, and I haven't read those words in other statutes for scholarships in other states. And it's not in other statutes in this, in Florida. It's here in this one. People gloss over this because we hear headlines and they stir people up to thinking this, and well, they're using money for that or this, and they're just going to take all your rights away, and shekels are shackles. I'm like, you've got to be careful. The language matters. The words, the exact words matter. And establishing a parent's basic right to educate their own children as they see fit is critical. Critical.
Well, we also have to understand. I'm sorry, sweetie. That yes, the scholarship could ultimately put restrictions, but so can our behavior.
Yeah.
If we're saying we are educating our children at home, regardless if we take state money or not, if we're churning out children who can't function, it will be noticed and our rights will be stripped away in terms of just our flexibility, our permission, our right to homeschool in Florida. We have, I don't know if I could say but one of the most homeschool friendly states in the nation. To keep it there, we actually have to understand that homeschooling is a right, but it's also a responsibility.
Yes.
I know that the path for every child is not the path we've taken for our daughters. But I think when we kind of pigeonhole our kids and say, oh, they only need to learn out in life and they only need to learn to, start a business, or they only need to do this. No, they actually need to be wise. They need to know how to read and do math and all the things that we need to function in society. Maybe they don't need calculus, but they do need to be able to spell and read books and use proper grammar. So I wouldn't just attach the scholarship to the dwindling away of our rights. I would attach our behaviors and our outcomes to the dwindling away of our rights.
Loud enough. Yeah. You're absolutely right. I'll say this real quickly, and then I want to hear from Reagan, because you were saying something. You were starting to say something. But this is exactly why very early on, Brenda fought against the truancy issue, because students who were being showing signs of truancy in public school, they were being encouraged to just register as homeschoolers. Just register as homeschoolers. And Brenda was like, wait a minute. That's gonna put it's not a dumping ground, that's gonna put a black eye on it. So they had created the board of review that includes 3 veteran homeschoolers, along with the county officials, that review a portfolio for someone who is truant. So there is an accountability measure that went along with that to make sure that things like that didn't create a trend that put a dump on the behavior and then let's just get rid. It's too hard to manage that. We can manage it all if they're in public school. Let's just get rid of the other options. No. No, thank you. But you're absolutely right. The behavior comes from the parents, but the behavior is the driver.
Right.
Reagan?
It's, you know, you take that freedom and you say, oh, we're homeschoolers. We don't have to do math this week. Well, that becomes a very slippery slope, right? Yes, if life happens, we pivot and we let life happen, but we got to get back on the path.
Yeah,
You know, that's just it's a responsibility.
Yes.
So that's just how I see that. We're
I
again,
don't disagree. Yeah.
we're in the rigor camp and we get made a little fun of. We do every page of every book. I get it, but there's also somewhere in the middle. There's
Okay.
somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Reagan, go ahead.
So I had kind of two thoughts bouncing off of things you guys both said. So talking about whether parents need this sort of thing, and then also kind of tying into that language that says parents may educate their children as they see fit. Like, talk about as they see fit. There's so many different parents with so many different resources. There are veteran parents who have sent 6 or 7 kids through homeschooling through different paths. There's rookie parents who are on their first kids. And so finding a community where, you know, you can make that decision for yourself and then, you know, bounce your ideas off of your friends and your family. And, you know, we have this Discord with Hef that, you know, you could reach out to someone on there and I see you have kids in the same walk of life I do. That's a great resource to allow you to have community and to figure out, maybe I don't take this scholarship, so where do I find my resources? Other homeschool parents. I feel like there's also a misunderstanding too about the legislators that are creating bills like this, is that at a core, our government in every state is a government for the people, by the people. So you have a right, if you disagree with something like this, to voice your opinion. You also have a right to bring other problems to the attention. And you also have a right to say, you know what, this isn't for me and I'm not going to take it. But these legislators are listening to us when we ask and when we step up and when we say there's a problem. And so people like you who are fighting, that's amazing. And you do a great job. But there are also everyday parents who, if they see a problem, do it, stand up, say, this is what I need for my homeschooler, and find other people, again, within your community that also have the same problem, because that's an amazing resource we have.
I would add to that though, and I was going to mention this later, you know, when you're thinking about being part of the voice, right, the community that is home education, don't wait until there's a problem. You have to know these elected officials, because when they put human traits and relationships together with our message, it's harder to say, it's not my deal, you know? So those relationships, Reagan's got a great vantage point, as does her sister, in that they've been involved in government. It's the family business. But, you know, it's anyone can schedule a meeting with their legislator and just get to know them, you know, give them the good job messages when something goes right. Don't wait till there's a problem. And we have a citizen legislature. They are all people just like us who work a job, who have a family. They go to Tallahassee part-time for very little money. Congress is a different story, but our state legislature, where these decisions are being made, those are rank and file citizen legislators, and they want to know what rank and file citizens are thinking. But you can't wait till because they're one of 160, right? They're 40 in the Senate, 120 in the House. If you wait until it's a problem, chances are those decisions are already
being made,
pretty much made.
Yep.
So you wait until you get ahead of that horse, that cart, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that. And Reagan, thank you for your perspective. And Anne-Marie Underwood says, love the Discord. Let me explain to anyone who's listening who might be new or this gets shared with. Our Discord community is a server for the state of Florida that the Home Education Foundation put together for parents to get in there and connect with each other. Like Reagan was saying, find help, find community. Community is so important. And a digital community is great, but we have channels in the Discord for every county, so that as you connect, you can connect with people local to you. Get together, find them, talk with them, get together, walk the campaigns together. As you get in there and you start coordinating, hey, we're doing this, we're going to walk with so and so. Do that. If you need support from us in terms of, you know, flyers or T-shirts or stuff like that, we can design those and put them together and let you buy them for your team and all that kind of stuff, and we can help support what you're doing, so that you can show up and be heard and be present. But also that finding that community and using our Discord to do it is absolute. This is why I built it. So that and the alert channels at the top, where we can identify the trends, what's happening, and tell you so that you're not sitting around reading news articles scared of what's going on, or maybe this, maybe that, I don't know. We'll give you links to things. We'll tell you what. Underwood, Anne-Marie Underwood has been asking some amazing questions in our Discord about, the issues with the money, and media are saying this. What's the real story? And I will grab links. I'm a nonstop researcher. I just can't help it. I'll grab links and I'll pull resources and show here's that and here's that and here's what they're saying and here's why, and they said this last year but they switched and they're saying this now, and it's this. There's so much good information in there, and there's so much helpful resources. And Reagan, you're in there. I know that we're aimed at hitting our young people too. We really want them to be able to find a place where they can connect with each other as well. You're that next generation. We rely on you. We rely on you. We're going to be relying on you in the future. Someone like you will be carrying the torch at some point. So we're really hopeful.
Do I get a shirt then?
Yeah, sure.
He loves a good shirt.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the story, Jason. Young man, a little child goes missing, and the whole community, it's a small town, they go out looking, and everybody's looking and looking and looking, and it's cold and winter conditions, and they can't find him. And finally someone said, and they think he's in this big field, plains area. And finally someone says, let's link hands and walk in a line. And they find him, but it's too late. And they say, what if we had linked hands earlier?
Oh, man.
So linking hands is what we're called to do. It's, if you're a believer in Christ, we're called to link hands. And if you wouldn't send your children off to a school, if you're called to home education because you wouldn't send them off for someone else to influence them, don't send your home education rights off to just Jason, Crystal, and Brenda to, take up the cause.
Link arms with us.
So yeah, link arms with your community and the people in it who, like Reagan was saying, have done it before you or are doing it with you. Some of the best information I've ever received has just been from other homeschool moms who learn by trial and error. We don't have to make the errors because others have gone before us. So, yeah.
You give me chills. That's great.
I just wanted to add something to what Vicki said a while ago. When you asked her, does a parent need the scholarship? We were in a similar situation to you, one income. We were honestly just kind of barely making ends meet. So for 7 years before the scholarship even existed, we were homeschooling on pretty much zero budget.
Right.
Library, I signed up for all the homeschooling blogs where they do like deals where they offer free printables. So like that was kindergarten for my daughter was just entirely free stuff that I downloaded from the internet. And I just wanted to circle back to that because we have heard some parents who want in their hearts, they want to be homeschooling, but they miss the application window for the scholarship or something like that.
Ooh, yeah.
If you are called to homeschool, please don't be afraid to jump in without it is 100% possible. And we can help you find resources. We can help you figure it out, but you do not need the money. I have been so grateful for the scholarship because we have been able to do the extras, like Vicki said, things that we weren't able to do before. But you do not need the scholarship to home educate children. So please don't let that be something that keeps you from taking that leap if you're feeling called to do that for your kids.
Also, don't feel limited by, that because of the scholarship and because homeschooling, I think it's sort of a revolution against traditional brick and mortar school, that homeschooling, that coupled with a scholarship, homeschooling, you're seeing it grow just exponentially. But a lot of people are concerned, I don't want a Christian curriculum, or I don't want this curriculum. There's everything out there. It doesn't just have to be, you could literally go to the library and check out a book on biology if you want to learn biology, and that's not going to have one bent or the other. Well, maybe the other way, but you know what I mean? Like a lot of people have cast us into this religious only category, and it hasn't been that way for so long. And part of that is that someone saw how they could make money off selling curricula, but you don't have to spend hardly anything. Like I said, easy peasy was how we transitioned out of VPK initially, because I just wanted to tip our toe in and see what happened. But you can make it work. And when they're little, they just need reading, writing, math, and exploring, and great books.
And we have, at our family, we have not used a packaged curriculum ever.
Right. We didn't either.
And until the scholarship, I bought some, but I still don't use them like you would think people use them. I like to pull like I like to mash up resources. And so I'm pulling things from all different things. And that might be because that's how I got started. I had to piece stuff together, but I found that I actually really enjoy doing that because I can customize, like you said, Reagan, your learning style, I can customize for my kids what works best for them instead of feeling like I have to stick with whatever was outlined in this curriculum package. And so you really can, I mean, honestly, homeschooling families give stuff away too when they're done with it. Like if you can connect with a community, you can find resources that will get you through whatever it is you need to get through the subjects with your kids.
There's a blessing table at our co-op every month, and everybody's always passing things on, or free and used curricula sites such as Facebook, groups in Facebook. There really are so many resources. And then ultimately, when your child starts getting older and you start seeing where their leanings are, you really can tailor, they're really into science. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to get a ton of art material because that's not what they're enjoying. Let's really dive into science, and then you just go get every science book you can find. So.
I want to say this because I'm listening to you, and I just want to kind of put the statement out there that if you're, I've heard people say, well, if you take the scholarship, you're not a real homeschooler and blah 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 stuff like that. It's fierce, okay, but I think that if you are making the decision, I think I would like to restate, and maybe they would agree with me, I don't know, but if you are making the decision to homeschool out of convenience, you're not a real homeschooler. It needs to be a decision that you make out of conviction. That was the way that our pioneers did it. They didn't have scholarships. They didn't even have laws to protect them. They were convicted in both the duty to teach their children, and that if they have the duty, they should also have the right. And therefore, we have homeschooling today, and especially in Florida, where the laws that we have, we owe it to the thanks of those pioneers, but we also have to slow down and really let it sink in that homeschooling is not a decision of convenience. It's not a decision because, quote unquote, school choice has blown up so fast and everybody's doing it now, let's do it too. This is not a trend, and it's not a decision of convenience. It's 100% a decision of conviction.
Yes. Yeah, that is accurate. There have been times where, the battle of my reluctant homeschool mom journey happens, and I think, wow, wouldn't it be easier? Wouldn't it be more affordable? Wouldn't it be in time and effort if someone else was responsible for this? And every single time I think back, we're called to do everything well, right? We're called to keep our rights and responsibilities, fight for them, and our children have to be the first priority there. And again, some people may be on the other end of the spectrum from me, where I saw that I had children who are going to need more because of giftedness and differences in learning. There may be the other where they're going to have differences in learning, and who better to figure that out than you? So, with or without the scholarship, do it well. Know that someone's watching. Even if you don't have the scholarship, someone's watching. They're either learning from you or they're critiquing you. Do it well. So I feel like I can't say enough about the responsibility, but that there are also resources to help prop you up in that responsibility. So don't feel like you're isolated, educating on an island, or someone hasn't walked that path before you.
Awesome.
And I love that with Discord and everything can help find that. So
Reagan, you have your hand up.
He's so good.
I'm a little bit of a history nerd. I find history really inspiring because if we don't know where we came from, how can we move forward? And kind of the history of how did we get to where we are with homeschooling, that inspires me. So in our education system, from the time of Socrates through the founding fathers into the time of the Great Wars, we followed largely a classical model where we learned and discussed virtues and morals and then applied them to different subjects like math and science and Latin and grammar and writing and all of these sort of things. Then we hit the Industrial Revolution and the World Wars, and we realized, okay, we need people who can follow a blueprint, follow a schedule. Look at just the bells in public schools, right? Look how closely those follow like the factories and the Industrial Revolution. We needed people who could follow stuff like that. And then we stopped fighting those wars and the Industrial Revolution passes, and we look and we realize, oh wow, that's not what we need for our kids anymore. And so things start out slowly. We started with charter schools and magnet schools. The true removal of children from public schools started with, ironically, was the Catholics. They didn't like that the Protestant Bible was being taught in public schools, and so they started trying to protect their children from that. And so they removed them and created Catholic private schools. So this started a larger revolution of people for mostly spiritual reasons saying, okay, we don't want our children learning these sorts of things. So that's where the stereotype came from, of these unconventional families who were focused. Yeah.
I think that was the Pierce versus Society of Sisters is what you're referencing, right? That case? Yeah. Okay, cool. Keep going.
Yeah. So they, the stereotype that people have of these, secluded, unconventional families who are, largely overly religious, and they don't trust public education. That's where that stereotype came from. But ultimately, in the transition period in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s, where these families are now realizing, for one reason or another, public education may not work for my student. So people like Brenda and her husband come along, and they start fighting these laws because it was illegal to not have your children in a education system that could be verified like that. They start fighting for our parents' rights. And so that is inspiring, the fact that we took so many different steps to get here, and look at the way that it has evolved. It's so beautiful, and it creates so many different paths to so many different outcomes. That's my favorite thing about homeschooling, is it's not one size fits all. You can get into it at any time. You could be a public schooler for 11 of your 12 years, and your last year decide, I need one different year to just set me on a different path for a college or a trade school, or to be a stay-at-home parent, because all of those things are valid reasons to take your schooling into your own hands. That's what I love about homeschooling.
Awesome. Well said. Thank you for speaking up. Thank you guys for being with us today.
Of
We're
course.
running shy of 10 minutes, and Reagan, I know you have somewhere that you have to be at 1. So if you need
Yes.
to dip out, I'm so glad that you were with us, and I'm so glad that you were a part of this conversation. It's been wonderful to have you on. And we'll have to do
And
Of course.
just so everybody knows, these two poor, sheltered, unsocialized, awkward homeschoolers plan to homeschool their own children, and they are both headed to university. So we're very excited that God's kind of put us on this path. Reagan, if you have to go, I understand. I did want to touch on one quick thing.
Yeah,
The
please.
other benefit for us academically.
Okay.
I perhaps with my husband being a professor as part of his role at the university, I will see the product, the writing product, or the ability to pass a test or read a syllabus, and it's a disappointment. He's got junior and senior students who honestly can't construct a proper paragraph, and it's to me it's hurtful, because I think, wow, they went through this many years of education, and here they're struggling. So I look at the public school system, and Reagan touched on it with how public schooling started, and it was to turn out a product, if you will. Well, what happens when you are expected to turn out a product? You need measurable outcomes. You need, which is how we got grades, right?
Yeah.
We need to say, you rank here, and he ranks here,
Yeah.
and he ranks here.
Testing.
That flies in the face of actual education.
Yes.
Because to me, education is a young lady who just turned 18 years old being able to cite history, use it for the purpose of articulating her beliefs and do her debate, not a child who can pass a couple of quizzes and get a certain grade to be pushed on to the next grade. And maybe they brain dump and they never touch that topic again. So we work to mastery, understanding, and acceptance of information, right? Or the challenge of information. I don't care to sit and grade my children's tests. I'm going to know if they did well. We're going to go over it, and then we're going to take the things they didn't quite perform on, and we're going to learn those until they're comfortable with it. So when you look at grades versus actual education, they are two different things. And I would submit that what she just articulated in that brief snippet is actual education. And that's achievable.
There's an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson, one of the most brilliant, I think he's an astrophysicist or something like that, one of the most brilliant minds of today. And he's talking about his education in public school. And he said, if you talk to any of my public school teachers and looked at my grades, they would have been like, oh, he's probably not going places. And look where I am today, because public education aims for a measurable outcome. And like you said, homeschooling aims for mastery.
So at the Hispanic Homeschool Conference this past weekend, I was on a panel with William Estrada from HSLDA and Sam Sorbo. and they both gave some interesting quotes that I think are just key, so important to this. So I'm going to share them with you. One of them was, the education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire.
Yes.
And that was one of them. And the other one that was shared was, I think it's Mark Twain. I've never let schooling interfere with my education.
Oh, I love that one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's true though. Like, if the very threat to freedom itself, or sorry, the very threat to our freedoms is the freedom itself, because it's by its nature chaotic and free. Everybody's able to go and do their own thing in their own way. And it's like herding cats. I hear people say that all the time, and it is. It so is. That's both the blessing and the curse, if you will. And what we do is we go, oh, this is great. Like, how will we know we're succeeding? We got to measure it. You're right. We come up with measurements. Then we have standardized tests, and then we have and what seem to be ideas that are good. Like, this is a great idea. Now we'll know if we're making progress or not. End up becoming a hard line, a mandate at a certain point, as it becomes norm and normative and further down the road. And that's the thing that we have to watch for. That's the thing that I watch for when we're talking with legislators. I'm trying to think 10 years down the road. Well, okay, great. Well, this is an idea right now, but what happens if this good idea becomes so norm, it becomes the only thing we enforce, or the only thing, I try to look at it through those lenses, because it's so critical as every little move and every little change, every little word that we add, or this program, it all matters. And there's national trends, there's things that the political system is trying to say, hey, do this on this side and do that on that side. And then there's people who are trying to make money, who are going, no, do this over here, and we'll profit off of that. That'll be great. And everybody's got some what is the Princess Bride quote where he says, life is pain, Highness. Anyone who says otherwise is selling something. Everybody is selling something. And education's painful. It needs to be painful. That doesn't need to be fixed. That's just the way it should be. It should be a decision that we make out of conviction, not out of convenience. We don't need to take the pain away. And anyone who says otherwise is selling something. So there you go.
Homeschooling is not pain-free.
No.
I'll testify.
Yeah.
We had algebra tears. I'm just going to say there were many days of algebra tears.
Yeah.
I'm going into law, not medicine. No.
Yes. Listen, thank you both for being with us
Of
today.
course.
It's been a wonderful
Of course.
conversation. And everyone in the
pleasure.
comments is echoing that sentiment. So thank you all for being with us in the comments. We really appreciate you guys watching. Share this if there's someone that you believe would benefit from having this conversation at their fingertips. They can put it on play. We are now on Spotify, Rumble, YouTube, now Audible, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. I think there's several others. So we go live on Facebook just because that's where a lot of the people hang out, and it's easier to share into the different groups. But afterwards, we do have this available for others to listen to on other through other avenues, because it might be more convenient for them to do that. And if so, bookmark it and share it with others. Every Monday at noon, these come out. Vicki, thank you for being with us and sharing your
My
family
pleasure.
and your story with us. Reagan, thank you for being with us. It's so wonderful just to see those fresh homeschool minds that are graduating and going into the world and giving hope. It's it just by you being present and speaking up and being so well spoken and articulate and thoughtful, you represent well. So thank you for being with us, and thank you for the push and the effort, and for being in our Discord as a helper.
Of course.
We're so grateful for you. So is there
And
any last
we're grateful
words?
for you.
Oh, thank you. Any last finish up comments from anybody? We'll start with Crystal, and then we'll go. My screen goes around that way. So
I don't have anything.
okay.
Thank you both for being here today, though.
You're welcome.
Vicki.
Of course.
Also look at this as just a blessing. Good, bad, or indifferent. I know all the ins and outs of my children, and they know all the ins and outs of me. And we have spent 11 years traveling the country. We've hit our 46th state, and they've put hands and feet to some of the things they learned in books. And we wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise. There's just so much more beyond academics that home education provides, the avenue for. So just love on your kids, do the tough stuff. Parenting is tough regardless of where your kids go from 8 to 5. Do tough together, just do tough together.
I can't add to that. Reagan?
Just be willing to communicate with your parent if you're a student, with your student, and with your legislators if you're a parent. Be a voice in your house, in your friend group, in your county, whatever it is. And don't be afraid, because really there are so many ways that you can fail, but there are even more ways that you can soar beyond where you thought you were going.
Okay.
That is awesome.
Who is this kid?
I know. I'll close this out with this. We always say thank you to our sponsors, so I'm gonna go and show you our sponsors again. But there's one more quote that I wanted to share. It's one that I've kind of picked up recently. I made the mistake of saying it was a popular quote, but it's not. I'm just a dork who likes to go read old people quotes. So,
yay, dorks.
Heraclitus said, "Out of every 100 men, 10 shouldn't be there. 80 are just targets. 9 are real fighters, and we are lucky to have them." Excuse me. We're lucky to have them, for they make the battle. But the one is a warrior, and he will bring the others back. And we're very thankful to have fighters alongside of us here. We have Arete, FPEA, Fisher Precious Spells, and TBHC Group. These are our top sponsors. They're our supporters. They're our fighters. And all the families that donate monthly support to us through our support on our website. It's flhef.org/support. We thank you so much for being with us arm in arm, as Vicki said, linking arms and going through this together. It is not missed on us when we see the emails come through that the donations are received. It's actually pretty invigorating. So thank you for that. I think we're all striving as homeschoolers to not be part of the 80 that just kind of abdicate and give up and have no reason for being there. And we definitely don't want to be part of the 10 that absolutely shouldn't be there. So I applaud you all, and I thank you all for being with us on this journey, and we look forward to continue fighting for your rights. Without anything else, I'm going to kick this off, and you guys